guys, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, you're watching BookedonCharity, and welcome to my July wrap-up. So firstly, baby of the day, we've got a brown sugar latte that I made. I haven't made an iced coffee in so long because it's been really cold, so we're gonna have an iced coffee today. I hope it doesn't make me cold because it is warm, but it's not hot. Okay, so I haven't done one of these. I don't even know if I've done them the whole year. Okay, but something in me really wanted to record from, I guess, from the moment that I got out of my reading slump and really started reading. So in July I read 6 books and I want to talk about them, but before then I want to give you guys some stats because I'm a stats kind of girl and I love to see how my reading goes. So I'll share the stats somewhere around the screen. So first up, I did mention that I read 6 books and that totaled to 2024 pages, and I listened to 20.12 hours of audiobook. It took me 18 days on average to finish my books, and the majority of the books I read were fantasy. So I read 5 fantasy books, I read 2 YA books, I read 2 romance books. We'll see, but I believe that it's the romance has been integrated within my fantasies and other books. One of them was from the LGBTQIA plus genre, one was the thriller, and one was a science fiction. And then in terms of my star rating, I've got 1 5-star, guys, and like 5 stars come very far and few in 2024. I don't understand. I think most of my 5 stars are coming from my rereads, and I'm just like, where's the new stuff that will blow my mind? But yeah, 1 5-star, 1 4.75 star, 2 4.5 stars, 1 3.5 stars, and the lowest star rating I gave in the month of July was 3 stars. So it wasn't a bad reading month in general. My average star rating is 4.21. Okay, now getting into the books, I'm in the process of moving, which is also the reason why I'm sitting like on the floor today, because half of my shelves are empty, and most of the books that I read, well, one of them was an audio and the other was a library hold, so I don't have those copies anyway, but all the other copies like I've already packed up. So the first book that I finished in July was The Read Dance Stalker by Angela Makolwa. I'll put the book up here. I gave this one a 3.5 star rating. So in this story we follow a serial killer who is known as the Butcher, and they've been incarcerated for a while, and they go and get hold of this woman called Lucy Kambule, who used to be a journalist back in the day before this guy was incarcerated, but now she kind of has her own company called The Publicist with a Friend. So she gets this call and this guy is saying, "Hi Lucy, you know, at some point you covered my story. I am Napoleon Dingiswayo and I would really like to give you an opportunity to write a book about me." So her having that journalism bone in her, she agrees to meet with him, and she starts to go through these meetings so that she can get more information from her, but a lot of things unfold as time goes on. So in book 2 we start off where Dingiswayo has allegedly escaped prison, and I can't really say much about that, but the writing of the book was quite easy to follow. And if you guys have watched my reading vlogs of Red Ink, you would know that I struggled a lot with the font on paper, so it took me such a long time to read it, but this one I read within a few days. Like it flowed very quickly. There are parts of it that I felt were making the story very stagnant, like it was quite slow, and I think it's where we were building a lot of background, but I think because we built the characters already in book 1, I didn't really need a lot of that, and we spent too much time on there. So this is what really brought down the rating for me. I found that I was more excited about the book when we got to the bad guys. When we got to the chapters that handle the bad guys, I would, like, it got my blood pumping. I was more excited. It was also gruesome, I must say. Like, it's just this brutality in here that if you cannot handle, please, like, stay away. But it's gory at some point, and it's just, ugh, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. But those chapters propelled the book forward so much faster than the ones where the character is just doing her job, and I was like, I don't really care about that. So yeah, we ended up on a 3.5 star rating. Generally, it was enjoyable. It is a thriller, so yes, be aware there are gory details, there's murder, there's all kinds of things in there, so there's a lot of triggers. If you're a person who reads thrillers, I think you'll be fine with it, but if you're new, just know that it's gory. Next up, I've got my 5-star rating. This one I will give a special shout out to Vuvu, because Vuvu got me on this series. I'm still reading the series. I'm on book 4 right now. I've gotten addicted. So in my next wrap-ups, you will hear me talk about the other books. I only read book 1 in July, and this is called A Court This Cruel and Lovely, and it's by Stasia Stark. I gave this book 5 stars. I listened to it solely on audio on Everand, the whole series, or the first 4 books. I don't know how long the series is going to be, but the first 4 books are available on Everand. So this is a fantasy. This is a fantasy romance that features fae. It features hybrids and humans. So obviously the hybrids are human and fae together. It features forbidden magic. It features political intrigue. So the premise of the story is that we've got our main character Priska, who lives in a small village, like in a small town, very simple people, lives amongst humans. And the premise of this is that we have a king in this continent, and they have a rule that when each child is born, because every person gets born with magical abilities, they might be weak, they might be strong, like different kinds of magical abilities, but everybody has a magical ability. So what they do is they get parents to take their children to sacrifice some of their magic to the gods, and then later on in life they'll get a piece of that magic back. So it's like their religion. So they've got these priestesses that go to these small towns and go on and test people randomly as well. And if they find that you've got magic and you're under a certain age, because there's a certain age where your magic is supposedly supposed to come back, and if you get tested randomly and found that you've got magical abilities, because you should have given your magic to the gods, you actually get taken and you are labeled as corrupt, and they go and execute you. So when the story starts, like, we have one of these ceremonies happening, and we see that our main character Priska is very scared to be like picked out. So you already get a sense that something is going on here, until this is not really a spoiler because it's right in the beginning of the book, until we realize that she does have some magical abilities, and she's too young to have these abilities. They should be gone, because she should have already given them to the gods, which she did when she was younger, but it didn't all go away, which then means that she's quote-unquote corrupt. So she ends up having to run away, because when they do find that you're corrupt, they do execute the person, they execute your whole family for like keeping this lie and all that. So it puts everybody in jeopardy. So she runs away. Her mom gets killed, but her magical abilities was of a seer, so she tells her something before she leaves: go and find the prince. We don't know who the prince, we've never met the prince, like, go and find the prince. And so she runs. Her mom gets executed, and she goes on this journey. This is the first time that she's leaving a small town. She's never stepped out of this place before. She doesn't know where she's going. All she knows is that she's not safe here anymore, and she needs to find a place to go, until she runs into this group of mercenaries, and the story moves on from there. I'm gonna stop like explaining too much, but it is still good. It is written really well, very easy to follow. The magic system is not complex, so it's also very easy to grasp. And as a fantasy, and me not having a physical book, I feel like I was able to follow it very nicely without having a map to see, without having a glossary to refer back to. So also like the language, the people's names were very easy to keep up with. So it was a really good time. The romance in it, it's a slow burn romance, but the smut is smutting. There's like lots and lots of smut in here, but just know that it is a slow burn. So there's a lot of development that happens in here, and I've been binge listening to this to the series because the minute you finish the last book, there's a cliffhanger and you have to jump straight in. And because the books are just readily available, it's just like, why waste time? But yeah, I give this one 5 stars. I loved it. I had the best time with it. I have no complaints. I think it was just an easily digestible book, and yeah, it's good. I would definitely recommend. The next book I read was a reread, and I read Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. I don't even have this copy anyway because I feel like I borrowed it to somebody and didn't bring it back, and that's not cute. But I read Children of Virtue and Vengeance, and I left it at the star rating that I gave it previously, which was 4.5 stars. It was enjoyable. It wasn't my favorite because book one will always be the favorite. I think it's just the ending that makes you feel like, what now? What now? But if you don't know what the story is about, this is a series. This is a trilogy called The Legends of Orisha by Tomi Adeyemi. The first book is called Children of Blood and Bone, and essentially in this world you've got people that are called magi who have magical abilities that are linked to a specific god. And some years ago the king went and killed off all the magi that had magical abilities and left their kids. So you only get your magical abilities to manifest at a certain age. So he executed everybody above the age who had those magical abilities, and people who are magi are very recognizable by their white hair, and so it's very easy to spot out somebody who is a magi. So we follow our main character Zeli, who is young, she's training, she's at the age where she would have gotten her powers if they didn't take magic away during the execution. And she's training with Mama Akba, and Mama Akba is like taking care of all these kids who would have been magi, but they don't have parents anymore. They're displaced from their homes and they just live in this like small village, and they're content except for the fact that they're still being very oppressed by the monarch. They are being hunted and like being taxed, and it's just oppression. It's just oppression. So this is a story, this is a coming of age story. This is a story of, you know, coming into your own magic. Zeli is a very like tough but likable character, and I like that she's straight to the point. When I reread, I've just remembered how strong-willed she was and how funny she was, because we go on this adventure to bring magic back. So it was a very nice story, and it will always be like one of my favorite stories. So in book 2 we start off where magic has returned, and it didn't just return to the magi. Even people who wouldn't have had magic before and don't have those identifying factors of being a magi got magic, and their magic operated a little bit different. So we have this clash and this war happening between these two factions, and oh, it's just a stressful time. It's just a stressful time. But if you know, I gave this one 4.5 star rating. This was a reread for me, and I was rereading the whole series in preparation for book 3. So yeah, that's my feelings. I don't have to say a lot about this one because I feel like a lot of people know about the series. A lot of people have read it as well, so I've also talked about it in the past. So yeah, this was just a quick recap. And then next up, I rated The Obelisk by N.K. Jemisin. I wanted to give this one 5 stars, but I think I'm kind of like learning that with N.K. Jemisin, I need to reread, especially in this Book and Earth trilogy. I haven't read anything else from N.K. Jemisin, but in this specific series, I have to read the books at least twice, because there is so much information, right, that she gives to you. There's so much underlying plot. There's so much crumbs that she leaves for you that the first time reading it, you are not going to get them all. You are not going to get them all, because even if you had to sit down and read the book with a notebook, writing down whatever you think is important, there's things you're gonna forget, and there's things that you won't pick up as important until you finish the book and then go back and reread it. And that's what happened with book one. Book one, I read it, I gave it like 4.5 or 4.75, and then when I reread it earlier this year, it was a straight up 5 stars. It was a straight up 5 stars, because now I knew the premise of the story. I knew how the story starts and ends, but I knew that there's so much information that she weaves into the story that you just like mind blown. Okay, this book is mind blowing. So the Book and Earth trilogy basically follows the story of how the world is ending for the last time. And I must be careful now not to say anything that happens in book 2 because with these sequels, I'm trying to give you more of a synopsis for book 1 than for book 2 if you haven't read it, because I feel like also a lot of people haven't read the Book and Earth trilogy, and it's one of my favorite sci-fi fantasies, guys. I love it. N.K. Jemisin has my heart. But the world is ending for the last time, and when the world ends, they call these the 5th seasons, and they've had 5th seasons over the centuries, and people have adapted and found new ways of living. So technology as well is like technology in its core sense of devices has kind of like diminished somewhat, but there's other technologies or like advancements in terms of magic, in terms of other things that have happened over the years. So you've got people who live in communities. So we've got communities all over this continent, some rich, some very poor, and in each of these communities you do find that there's people who show magical abilities, right? And the people in the story that have magical abilities are historically hunted and murdered by community members because they are believed to be the ones to cause all this catastrophic events, because their magical abilities show up in a way of they can change the atmospheric temperature, they can cause earthquakes, they can cause a volcano to erupt, you know, they can cause a tsunami. So their magic is very like connected to the earth in that way. So you've got this group of people who've been going and collecting all these kids mostly who have magical abilities and taking them to this institution to supposedly train them on how to control their magic. But there's more sinister things that's happening there, and you see as you continue with the story that there are other ways that they are using people with magical abilities. So this is also another story of oppression, and there's something that I want to read. I think Storygraph explains it really well, and it says The Obelisk by N.K. Jemisin is a magnificent choice for readers who crave epic fantasy adventures, because yes, with strong, complex female characters, fond family dynamics, and a gripping narrative that explores the resilience of humanity in the face of catastrophic change. So in book one opens up with our main character Esun, who is a woman in her 40s. She comes back home from work and she finds that her little boy of 6 has been murdered by the father, after we assume he has found out that this child has magical abilities. So the father doesn't have magical abilities, Esun does, and the way that magic passes on is not very linear because it can skip a generation. So you can have parents with no magical abilities and then have a child with magical abilities. So people look at that in a very negative way. So he reacted very badly and ended up essentially murdering his son. And Esun finds his son there, and she's distraught. She is distraught, and she is just looking for revenge. But more on that, she has another child with this man who is called Nasun, and she's a young teenager, and he has taken Nasun away, and Nasun also has magical abilities. So she goes on this journey to find her daughter and ensue revenge on her husband. But there's so much more happening, and book one is told in 3 perspectives, following 3 different women in 3 different stages of their lives, and women also children counting. And in book 2 we are mainly following 2 perspectives, and there are others trickled in there, but mainly it's 2 perspectives. So it's such a great time. Like, in my heart, this book has 5 stars. It has 5 stars. But I give it 4.75 because I know that I want to reread it, because I know that there's something in there that I missed, and I have no complaints. So maybe I should give it 5 stars. I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I guess it's a me problem, because it's not a book problem that doesn't have 5 stars. It's a me problem because I'm like, I need to go back, because there are things that I'm going to find, and it's going to be like, wow, that is why that happened. That's why that situation ended the way it did. But yeah, I had a good time. The Broken Earth trilogy is a series that I will always recommend to anybody who's heavy into fantasy, especially if you love fantasy and epic fantasy, but maybe you haven't dabbled into sci-fi yet. I feel like this is such a great bridge of a book to get into. I think for somebody who's very new into fantasy or very new into sci-fi, this might not be the best book to start off with. I think you might need a little bit more experience, because the magic system in here is a bit more complex than you find in other books. So it's not just like I can wield elemental magic, it's nothing like that. And it's also the topics that are being covered in the book. There's actual, you can hear this actual scientific information being provided. And in book 2 as well, it's like this whole thing is connected to this big object that has went missing for a long time, but it's coming back and it's affecting a lot of things, and the job is to go and catch this. Like, there's just so much happening. I'm just getting excited just talking about it and thinking I should go back. I should go back. But I think I'll probably reread it maybe in December when I have like more time, because I have other books that I want to read and not just be dwelling in all my rereads in 2024. But yeah, it was a great book. We'll say that this is a 5-star because it is a 5-star worthy book. I just gave it 4.75 now because I know I need to go back. All right, and then I read Children of Anguish and Anarchy, which is the 3rd book in the trilogy by Tomi Adeyemi. And this one was a disappointment, you guys. I was disappointed in this one. I gave it 3 stars. I still need to write my review on it. Probably it will come, I've already packed the book away, so I'll do my review only, I guess, next month when we move. Where do I start? I gave it 3 stars, but I don't know if it is 3-star worthy. I think it was quite generous. There's a lot of issues. There's a couple of issues that I found while reading this book, to a point where I hardly touched the physical book, which is just, for me, it's like if I have a physical book and an audiobook of a book that I'm reading, and I end up concentrating more on the audio than the physical, it's one of 2 reasons. One is because I'm enjoying it so much and I just want to binge, like read it, and I can't stop myself, but I don't have time to read the physical, or the book is just, it's not worth keeping my eyes on it. So I'm just trying to get through it as quickly as possible, and the audiobook is usually like the fastest way. So for this book, it was the latter. I started reading it and I was excited because I'm like, okay, where are we going with the story, right? Because of the way that we ended up in book 2. So we start off, these people have essentially been kidnapped. They are imprisoned by this group of people that we don't know. I think that's also my first issue, that we've had this war between these two factions that we've gotten to know over the 2 books, and now we're introducing a third faction into the mix where we still haven't resolved the issues between the first 2, right? So with this new faction now, it's like new names you need to learn, new language that they speak, new territory that they are part of, new magic that they wield that I feel was not even explained. We don't know the root of this magic, and also the motivation for these people to have this much hate and to basically hunt the magi. So that was problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that the way that the events of the book happened, it felt, you know, I kept saying to Vuvu's Tembile and Transkei Meg, because we were buddy reading this together, that the way that this book is going, it feels like a first book in a series, and it feels like we are laying foundation for what's to come later. And we read part 1, it felt like nothing happened, there was no movement from the main story that we got. Part 2, we read it, discussed, no movement. And I remember I said to them, this book is gonna get rushed in the end. This is only like 320 pages. I said to them, Tommy is going to rush this book at the end, and it's going to frustrate me because the way that it's going, we're not getting any resolution. She went and introduced so many new characters, and actually 2 factions that were introduced, not even just 1, 2 factions were that introduced. I couldn't keep up with the names of the people. I couldn't keep up with their magic that they wielded. I couldn't keep up with their politics. Like, half the time I didn't know what was happening. I was just like, what is the point of this? Like, it was just so disappointing for me. And at some point, one of our characters, like, they changed in their relationship. Like, things did not make sense. Okay, things did not make sense. Like, we were introducing queer relationships that did not feel genuine, and kind of like throwing away everything else that happened previously with no feelings, no repercussions, no resentment, no feelings attached to it. And I feel like people who did not have magic were just forced on to have magic just so that they have something, and I'm just like, it was not necessary. And people who were supposed to perish in the book just kept coming back. Those who were not supposed to just nothing made sense. The final battle didn't feel like the final battle. There's a lot of plots and characters that I feel like were forgotten. We kept asking, where's Juan? Where's Ruan? There was not a single mention of Ruan in book 3, but he was such a prominent character in book 2 that there's no way you can have book 3 without telling us what happened to him. Do you understand? We don't know what happened to Ruan. He disappeared. Nobody spoke about him. Nobody talked about what happened to him. I don't know. Nobody knows what happened to Ruan. The Queen Mother, like, it just, stuff didn't make sense. And I just didn't like how when we moved from one scene to another, like, the jump was so jarring. Like, there was no fluid movement, and it's just a lot of conversations. I was not having a good time with this book, and this is why I'm saying that me giving it 3 stars feels like it's too much. This is why I'm saying that me giving this book a 3-star rating feels like it's a lot. And I think it's because of my love for book 1 and how book 2 was still enjoyable. And like the Queen Mother, it just, oh guys, nothing was going well. There's not one thing that I can say that I loved about this book. I think my 3 stars is more of a, I I just love the first book so much. I love, like, book 2 was so enjoyable, like every 4.5 stars, and I'm just like, why the disappointment? Like, it doesn't deserve a 1 star, maybe like a 2.5, but I'm just like, oh gosh. I think the one of my 1 stars just went to the cover because they've got such beautiful covers, and now I'm just like, I don't know, I don't understand. Like, we should have at least maybe finished the series on book 2 and then started with something brand new in book 3, because this is what it felt like. It felt like the first book in the series. It didn't feel like we are continuing with the series at all, and that was very disappointing. All right, and then finally, my last book I read was The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadband. This is the first book in a duet called The Night Born Duet, and it forms part of the Crowns of Nyaxia series. This book I gave 4.5 stars. I enjoyed it so much. It features vampires, features a competition, it features it's so good. So in this book we are following a main character called Oriah, and Oriah was found in the ruins of a burning city where she thinks, or everybody thought, that her parents are gone and everything around her was gone, and she was taken in by this vampire king and raised as her own. And in raising her, he's been like protecting her and teaching her how to, you know, stay safe, how to fight and all that, and she grew up like learning how to fight. And in this place we've got different domains, and she was taken by the Nightborn King, right? So we also have the House of Shadow and the House of Blood, and they also have kind of like the leaders, but only one of them can be a king. And for that to happen, they go into this competition called the Kajari, where you have a bunch of vampires in there representing each house, and they battle essentially to the death, and like all gloves off. There's rules that you have to follow, and she goes into the competition as the only human in there amongst vampires. You are literally their food, okay? You are their food, but they make sure to feed them on a regular, but there's the challenges that they have to face where she's in grave danger. So she ends up allying with somebody where I think there's like a romance gonna happen there, but there's a turn of events that I just did not see coming. But this was such a great story. I did not expect the twist that happened at the end of the book, and I'm so happy that I got book 2 recently this week, so I'm looking forward to reading that very soon. But this was so good. Like, the writing in here is really good. It's really easy to follow. It is vampires, it is paranormal, so this, like, that is kind of like where the magic lies. This is a vampire story, so most of our characters are vampires. Here there's just 1 or 2 humans, including Oriah in here. We do have a human town, but we don't have any main characters from the human town, so we mostly just following this vampire politics and story and just history and battles, and it's just so good. It's such a good time. Like, I feel like I haven't read a vampire story that was this intriguing to me in a long time. And this is also a fantasy romance with somewhat of a slow burn, but at the same time it's like alliance, 2 lovers, 2 enemies. And then I don't know what's gonna happen, because I need to read book 2. I need to read the final book in the duet. But this was such a nice book. I had the best time in it. And our male main character, Rain, he's giving Damon vibes. He's giving dark, he's giving dangerous, but he's giving suave at the same time. And it's just like, it just gives you all the feels, okay? It just gives you all the feels. But I had such a great time with this. The plot of it, like I said, the plot twist at the end, I did not even expect it. I did not expect it, and now I've got questions. I've got questions that need to be answered, and they want me to go into the second book so that I can read and find out how the story ends. So I have a reading vlog that I'm currently busy with where I am recording my experience reading this, so there will definitely be more of a play-by-play review of me reading this book as I go. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading the second book. But yeah, I gave this one a 4.5 star rating. I think I've been very stingy this year with like my 5 stars. Like, it has to blow my mind. It has to blow my mind. Like, it has to make me not even question if this is a 5 star or not. But yeah, that is the end of my video. Let me know if you've read any of these books that I've spoken about today, and if you guys enjoy having me do reading wrap-ups, because I think I mentioned probably early in the year that I don't know if I should be doing wrap-ups or not, because I do reading vlogs, and in my reading vlogs I like talk extensively about the books that I'm reading, and I give more of a detailed review because like everything's still very fresh in my mind. So yeah, let me know if you guys enjoy this way of reviewing, or if you enjoy the reading vlog way of I personally enjoy the reading vlog way. But I wanted to like maybe do this because I have not read a lot like this many books in a while, and I felt like I needed to talk about it. And yeah, I think August is also going really well in terms of my reading, so I will definitely be thinking about recording an August wrap-up. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Remember to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Share my videos with your friends and family so I can continue to grow. I see all the new people that have been subscribed to my channel. I really appreciate you guys. We're over 800 subscribers right now, well on our way to get that first 1K. Okay, and yeah, if you haven't subscribed yet but you've been watching my content, please consider subscribing down below. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.
We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call